Hey guys, I'm Chris Buck, and a very warm welcome to Friday Fretworks, and this week, Gretsch guitars. Okay, I finally get it. Now, you may have seen a video I uploaded a couple of months back where I took you on a quick tour of Powerplay Studios in Zurich, Switzerland, where Cardinal Black have been recording our second record. It was a pretty extensive rundown of all of the truly incredible gear that Powerplay have. Guitars, amps, mics, pre's, old consoles, hardware, you name it, they probably have it. It truly is a treasure trove of superlative gear. One guitar that I kind of glossed over, though, for the most part, it was relegated to the thumbnail, in fact, if memory serves, was a 1964 Gretsch 6120. Now, I'll be totally honest with you, I've accrued a fairly extensive knowledge of guitars and their history, primarily through having done so many episodes of Friday Fretworks, but Gretsch is still a little bit of a blind spot for me. I've never really known specific years or models or reference numbers, and I guess ultimately that's probably because I've never really played one that I've truly loved. Although, massive caveat there, I've not actually played that many, which I guess is strange in and of itself. Being a huge Beatles and George Harrison fan, obviously Gretsch was a huge part of their sound, especially in their early years, with George having worked his way through a duojet, a Tennessean, and a Country Gentleman. Really was a pivotal part of their early sound. But to quickly rewind to that vintage 6120 for a second, it was actually in the very final recording sessions of our second record that I was putting down a guitar part on a track, a rhythm guitar part that felt like it needed something a little bit different. I'll be honest, the Gretsch probably wasn't going to be high on my list of go-to guitars. After all, you're drowning in vintage Blackguard Tellys, pre-CBS Strats, or 50s Les Pauls in Powerplay. As I said, it truly is a treasure trove, but this specific guitar part kind of felt like it needed a Bigsby, and thus the 6120 was suggested. Safe to say, I finally get it. Now, obviously, our second record isn't going to be out for a few months. I'm not going to tease any unreleased songs just yet, but honestly, the combination of the hollow body, the 6120, those Filtertron pickups, and the Bigsby truly was a magical combination. It's such a unique, evocative sound that instantly changed the direction of the song, giving it a much more kind of vintage retro feel, not just because of the sound of the guitar, but the way it made me play. It really does dictate your parts. The resonance and the sustain of the body, and of course the vibrato of that Bigsby, very much changes how you play and dictates what you play ultimately. Combine that with the sound of the guitar, and it truly is a majestic, magical combination. Now, unfortunately, I neither have a vintage 6120 or the funds to afford a vintage 6120, but what I do have is a Country Gentleman. Used to belong to my father, and I guess kind of belongs to me now. I think like most people born in the 50s, my old man was a massive Beatles fan, and obviously with George Harrison's May guitar between 63 and 64, having been a Country Gentleman, I can only assume that it was a guitar that he'd always wanted. I'll be honest, I've played it before, but never really through the eyes of someone who has seen the Gretsch light, as it were. So I thought I'd dig it out and see what I can do. Now, as someone who isn't particularly au fait with Gretsch guitars, one thing that can be a little perplexing is their electronic configuration. Now, obviously it will vary from guitar to guitar, but to open up the guitar case of a Country Gentleman and be faced with no less than 8 switches or knobs can be a little bit alarming, especially as when you really delve into it, none of them tend to kind of do what you were expecting them to do. Now, honestly, I'm not particularly confident in being able to try and describe what each one of those does without actually having the guitar in my lap, so I think it's probably safer to let the guitar do the talking. When it comes to trying to define the Gretsch sound, it makes for a fairly daunting prospect, not only because of the incredibly varied list of players who've made incredible use of Gretsch guitars over the years, from Chet Atkins to George Harrison, Brian Setzer, Billy Duffy, Pete Townsend, Richard Fortus from Guns N' Roses, and even Rancid's Tim Armstrong, but also because there's been so many guitars with so many appointments over the years. Of course, generally speaking, Filtertron pickups are pretty synonymous with Gretsch guitars, but to singularly associate Gretsch with Filtertron would be to totally ignore Dynasonic pickups, which are a truly wonderful pickup design, and if I'm entirely honest, probably a little bit more up my street. Either way, an afternoon spent with that magical 6120 has given me a totally new appreciation of Gretsch guitars that will no doubt send me down a bit of a rabbit hole, which I guess begs the question, where to start? What are your favourite models? Who are your favourite Gretsch artists? What are your favourite Gretsch moments? Honestly, it's not every day you get to discover a guitar company that released its first guitar in 1939. I'm going to play you out now, but as ever, thank you very much for watching. I'm Chris Buck, this is Friday Fretworks. Please subscribe, hit the bell icon if you haven't already, and I shall see you next week for another episode of Friday Fretworks. Cheers guys, take care, I'll see you soon.